Brothers in Tech is a weekly podcast focused on personal and home technology, helping provide you, our fellow brothers and sisters in tech, with some information, assistance, and recommendations. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brothers in Tech here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson, and off to the right of me on the screen, but as I tilt my head, I'm going to go to the left to indicate where Brian Jackson is, my brother in tech. How you doing, Brian?
Good, Alan. Good. I'm glad you continue to work through the most difficult part of the show, right? Trying to lean the correct way. So, congratulations.
Trying to remember what direction to go, and now that I have mastered that, I'm ready for the rest of the show. So,
we didn't have to prepare for the rest of it. That was it. We spent an hour in advance preparing on which way to lean. So
the head nods in the right direction. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's good to see you again. This is our kind of our, honestly, again, this is like the only time you and I really talk during the week. So we do just as much catching up to make sure everybody's good, everybody's healthy, happy, before we jump into technology, which is what we're really here to talk about. So are you good? Everything okay?
Yeah.
How's my brother? I'm checking.
I'm doing fine. School started back this week. So classes are going again. Luckily, we have a Labor Day coming up for a break because it's a week, and a full week of classes needs a vacation. So, but things are okay. Things are good, and
good.
And you've got a new youngster off into a new place. So are you not quite an empty nester? You've got out of school, but not out of home yet, but getting close. Right?
Out of the three kids, I'm down to one still living in the house for a little while longer, and my youngest is off at a music conservatory school. So we're adjusting. It's a little weird right now, but we're getting through it, and we're adjusting okay. But thank you for asking. And
I wasn't asking. I wasn't asking.
Yeah,
I was stating. Yeah,
making statements. Well,
making sure you knew that your kids had started to move on. I just want to make sure.
I will say this: not having as many people in the household does give me more time to do what we're going to be talking about in this episode. Watching more streaming services, which is nice. What we're going to be discussing here. Yeah, right. Yep. We are talking about streaming services. We're talking about primarily movie streaming services. I mean, although they show television shows and other things too, but primarily those services you pay a monthly fee for and to get access to a certain amount of content that you want to watch. This here on Brothers in Tech, where Brian and I talk about technology for home and personal and family use, streaming services kind of fits right into that. This is the hub of entertainment for a lot of people and families. And now, Brian, we've talked about this subject months ago. We kind of did a initial pass on the streaming services. We did our little assessment of who the different players were, what their strengths and weaknesses were, and which ones we liked. So why are we talking about this again? What was the
Well, actually, I think we've done it twice already. And it may have been our very first. I think it was our very first show. Was a series. We did 4 episodes on streaming. And then we revisited last year, and then I think I don't know, this seems to be moving pretty quickly. And I think you and I, when we've talked about it before, we would talk about which one was most important, which one would we actually spend money on, which one has good shows, but those shows are changing often now. And it seems as though month to month, I'm realizing certain services are worth my time, other ones are not. And so I think this may be a regular segment we need to put into our podcast here, because it seems as though the streaming wars are continuing to evolve, day to day. And for me, I'll just go ahead and kind of lay out my approach to these things, Alan. It's shows and it's interface, right? Those are the two things that I care about, right? It's are there good shows and what's the interface? Because I'm not going to pay for a lack of either one of them, right? Because if it's a horrible interface meaning the way in which I search and go through finding things, I'm going to get frustrated because I'm really big on a good interface. And number two, probably most importantly, is if there are good shows to watch. So to me, that's where I end up coming down, because they're all going to cost money. Many of them you can get free from your cell phone company, or free trials, or sharing accounts, which I know a lot of people are doing because of the allowing that some of these companies are doing to get more eyes on it. But to me, it's going to come down to the shows, and the shows are changing, quite often. So I think that's where I'm going to be approaching this.
When you're talking about shows, you are referring, I guess, to ongoing series and shows, not necessarily like what
new
movies they have, or movies,
movies, right? But to me, I'm really looking at, and this is me. When I'm watching TV these days, majority of time I'm trying to watch things, either a new that came out, or a new series, or new episodes of something. I've kind of gotten away from going back and watching old things that I liked before. I think maybe I'm just not watching enough to have gotten to the point where I'm saying, I'm bored, let me go back and watch something I haven't seen in a while. So for me, it's about who has the best new stuff coming out that would be worth my subscription fee. So that's the way I'm approaching it. And actually, I think that'll show up when we get to our rankings of these things. You'll see why I rank certain ones differently than others. So,
yeah, and that is kind of the format we're going to go into this. So there are 8 kind of streaming services I think we identified that right now are the ones that are competing for a lot of people's attention. And it's not to say there are some others, a little bit more tertiary streaming services that maybe specialize in certain areas, but the 8 we're going to talk about are the ones that are kind of the more broad ones that I think most people are thinking about, or are releasing some shows and episodes and things that they're trying to use to get attention.
Yeah. And these are not we are not including, I guess actually one of them we are, but I was going to say we're not really including the networks that have their own streaming versions of seeing things. These are more streaming networks or streaming services that have
platforms,
a platform of lots of different information that they're putting out. So I think you're right.
Although the line on that's blurring, as I'll talk about, as far as networks owning these platforms or vice versa, because a couple of the ones we're going to mention are technically own traditional TV networks, and they have that is their primary pipeline for getting content to their streaming services from the networks they own. So we'll keep that in mind as well. So let's do this, Brian. Instead of just going through them all first and then coming back and ranking them, we're actually going to rank them now. But this will give us a chance to each of us highlight the ones that we're watching the most or are most a fan of, but also the other one can counter if we agree or disagree and for what reasons. So this will give us a chance to go through those 8 services and kind of talk about where we are with them right now. Okay.
Yeah. That sounds good. Yep. Why don't you start so I can correct you afterwards?
Okay. That sounds good. No, I'll set up the standard. You knock it down. That's exactly.
That's what I love doing. So please.
Good.
That'd be great.
So let me, and I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. So I'm going to bring up my number one current
streaming service right now.
But with a big caveat, and I will explain that caveat here in just a moment. But this is my number one. It is HBO Max. So I like HBO Max for a variety of reasons. I think it was the one I kind of said was my favorite last time we talked as well. Hasn't really changed because I feel like they have traditionally done a very good job of curating both movies, a nice collection of movies. I can typically find more of the movies I'm interested in seeing on this platform. And they have done some interesting things with series and TV shows, a few in particular I've been watching lately. And it's enough to where I can say HBO Max is my streaming service. If I don't know what I want to watch, I just want to watch something, this is where I will go, as opposed to any of the other ones. The other ones I tend to go to for a particular reason. This one I go to, I want to see something good. And I feel like the quality is kind of there and there's enough of it to keep me engaged. So I do like HBO Max. I think interface wise, it's fine. I mean, I don't think it's anything extraordinary, but then again, I think pretty much all these streaming services have just about adopted almost the exact same interface.
Yeah.
You know, it's you have your list of things that you've kind of tagged you want to watch. You've got things that have just been added. You've got things that are new. You've got things that are popular, and they're all just in those thumbnail movie poster format of viewing. So nothing really dramatic on the interface. It works. I can typically find everything I need to find here with no problem. HBO Max, I think, has done a pretty good job of still aligning with some really great kind of mini networks. I'm trying to think if I can show kind of an idea of what that is. They've got some good originals. They've got some good shows they do. They also own content from several like kind of different content providers. Yeah, here we go. DC, for those who are fans of those movies, TCM, the Turner Classic Movies, they've got a movie collection there. Adult Swim, more animation for adults. Looney Tunes, Sesame Street, Cartoon Network. There's a lot of networks that they have content from, their hubs. And I think that really helps because for me, I do a lot of Turner Classic Movies. They used to have...
You do a lot of cartoons. Yeah. I mean, cartoons probably is what brought you into it, right? Looney Tunes.
Maybe a little bit of that. I do like a lot of the Adult Swim stuff, yeah. They used to have another, like a high criteria, high quality movie content. I don't think that hub is here anymore, but TCM, the Turner Classic Movies, will typically give me a lot of what I need there. I do give a caveat to HBO Max, like I said earlier when I was describing this, is although right now I think it's good and I think it's got some great content. They just started their new Game of Thrones, which I have not watched any Game of Thrones. I don't know it, but supposedly that's doing huge numbers for them. So I think that's giving them a lot of good input as to some new content they're doing. The thing I will caution against is that there has been some business dealings between Warner Brothers and HBO platform. This HBO Max platform is going to be changing over the next year. I think it's kind of a grouping of Discovery TV and HBO and Warner Brothers, and they're realigning all this stuff. They have been moving content off of HBO Max for a little while, last little bit. Supposedly because I think they're figuring out that some of the content they have on there, if it's not insanely popular, it's actually costing them more than if they just wrote it off for tax purposes and just got it off the platform and not had to pay for it anymore. So we have seen some stuff move away. People were all up in arms because a lot of Sesame Street content started going away. There's some other classic movies that have gone away. Other things that used to be on there have been moving away. So what this means for HBO Max going forward, I don't know. They've canceled some of the original movies they were about ready to release for the same reason. They don't want to release original movies on HBO Max anymore. They want this to be for really big budget theatrical movies that come online or for their big TV series. And so that may mean a lot of like good mid-tier quality stuff is gonna move away from the platform. So anyway, that's HBO Max. I still think it's my favorite platform, but I am watching it with cautious eyes to see if they make any changes on that. Brian, what's your thoughts, and where do you have HBO Max ranked right now?
Well, I mean, I think as usual, you're a little bit off in your approach to things. I actually have HBO number 2 in my list.
Oh, we're so far off.
So you're very far off. Yeah. So my number 1 is Apple TV Plus, and I'm not sure I certainly wouldn't have said that about a year ago. I would not have had them at the top. However, if you go back in, I don't know why you would, but if you went back and listened to our old shows where we've talked about streaming, I was big on Apple TV, but I was big in terms of optimism, right? I kept thinking, okay, they've got money, they've got clout, they're going to take over, and I really still believe that that's the case. And I'll say that I just they're the first one I go to, and this is the way I thought about it, Alan. In the actual Apple TV box, and when you've got all your apps on the screen, of course you reorganize them to what's most important. And I always think to myself, when I'm sitting down and my wife and I want to watch something, what's the first app that I'll go to? And for me, it's Apple TV. Now, there's a caveat there in that Apple TV has the app that allows you to see some other things, but not necessarily what I would ask. I mean, it doesn't allow you to see Netflix, right? It doesn't really pipe in. So I don't necessarily use it for other things. I'm always looking to see what are the originals, because I think Apple TV is starting to really hit its stride in putting out a number of good shows. I'll just, this is just me, but I love how Apple TV started to do the progressive releases, once a week, because it got me back to where, as a kid, where you really were waiting for something to come
Yeah.
out, as opposed to just like, oh, cool, I'll knock this out in this weekend and that's now done. And I got to wait a year before I see the next season. I love how they've done that. And when you get
Well,
involved with one or two shows that are coming out once a week, for me, that's enough, right? If I have one night where I'm wanting to watch a few things, I can get the new episode of this, and this, and then feel pretty good about it.
I will say, Brian, just as a caveat, you're right. I think Apple TV was the one that kind of pushed back to the format of releasing one episode a week, rolling out. Now every service does that, with the exception of Netflix. And I think Amazon Prime, I think also still does weekly releases.
I don't know if maybe they are. I know HBO is doing that now with the new Game of Thrones kind of prequel.
HBO's been pretty good about one a week release. Disney Plus does that as well. Several others we'll talk about, but I do think Apple TV kind of reminded everybody of that format and kind of got everybody thinking that way. I still think weekly release of episodes. Yes, I get it. If you're somebody that just is really hankering to watch all the episodes as quickly as possible, it's not the best for you. But I think from a marketing standpoint, from a buzz, building up buzz, I am amazed. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but Stranger Things, on Netflix, they release all the episodes at one time. And I've always kind of said that they have such a marketing buzz around it for like a week, maybe 2 weeks. And then it just kind of goes away. But other shows, like the one I'm going to point out right here on the screen, Severance on Apple TV Plus, my favorite show I have seen in probably several years. And the fact that it built up every week to the point where everybody online was ready for that finale to come and watch it, like when it came out together, really gave them like several months of building up buzz for this show. So I love the weekly release, although it is painful when I see a new episode and it ends on the cliffhanger and I'm ready to watch the next one, but I got to wait a week. That's fine.
No, and Alan, I think, obviously we know why Apple TV did that originally. I mean, they tried to hold themselves to a higher standard and say, oh, we're wanting to bring back the want. Well, they just didn't have the content, right? I mean, the fact they didn't have the content, they weren't going to put it all out because they only had 4 or 5 shows and we're done, and COVID didn't allow them to do the filming that they had hoped to do, that sort of thing. But I think that also allowed them to really, kind of get you wanting more of what they have, which I think was really good. And you're right. The others are following along because they know they need some cliffhangers. They need, if you think about it, Alan, if Stranger Thing comes out and puts the entire season out, you're right. There's a buzz around it, but the buzz actually, by the time it happens, is about the entire series. The buzz isn't about an episode. Right. Whereas this, like, an episode comes out and it was like, holy crap. And you got a week that people are talking about that episode. And I just think, that's something we were missing, from back in the network days, right? Thursday night happening and you watched it and then everybody talked about it for the next week and the water cooler talks. And I just think that that's pretty exciting now.
Well, and think about the other challenge that the releasing the whole season at one time poses for people in that community kind of setting about talking about television shows. Nobody knows what episode each other is on. So, it's not like you can all talk about episode 1 together because person A over here has probably already watched the whole season while this other person's maybe watched the first 3. You can't get together and talk about it, which I think is why that release schedule was good. Maybe when people were more COVID world, a little more isolated, a little bit more, hey, I've just got some time, I want to watch a whole season of something. But now people, we're back in social situations. We're back at work. We're back talking. Having that weekly release schedule gives everybody a chance to be on the same page with a show they're enjoying together. So,
Yep. So I would say I this is the first place that I go. One is because I have found myself enjoying the slow drip of content, because I keep kind of seeing, oh, there's a new show, and each new show seems to be pretty good. I will say I don't, other than Severance. Severance was fantastic. I don't know if I'd rate any of their shows at this point A pluses except for Severance, where it was like the quality of this, not only the cinematography, but the show itself was that good. But I think I've also gotten really excited about the cinematography behind shows and the technology they're putting into some of the shows. And Apple TV kind of, to me, blows the others out of the water in terms of what they're able to put on the screen. Now, the writing is still subpar in many of these shows where I'm going, oh gosh, that was fairly weak, or the acting maybe even not that great, but the cinematography and the quality of the stream, the sound and all of this, I think there's some really great stuff. And I'm always kind of amazed like how it looks in 4K. There's some good stuff.
No, you're right. It is the best looking streaming service as far as like image quality and just production quality. There's a lot of money going into these productions, these shows for sure. You're right, though, from a writing standpoint and whether or not it really just grabs the audience, they're building slowly. Again, I will say, Severance to me was the one where I said, okay, now they have made a series that is truly like a memorable,
people are talking about this for a long time.
engaging show that people are like talking about.
Yeah.
And I haven't felt that way about any of the other shows yet, but again, they're building. And the only reason I don't go to Apple TV Plus first is just because it's just not the depth of content that I need sometimes to make decisions. I go because I know there's a new show that I'm hearing about that they've released and I want to go see it. I go to Apple TV to check it out. I don't go there for a lot of browsing because there's just not a lot to browse. It's pretty limited selection. It's just their original material. They're not piping in content from other sources. It is truly just, hey, you're getting their stuff, the stuff that Apple TV is producing and putting out, which is good. It's very focused. It's very Apple-like. This is Apple's world. They're going to do it the way they want to do it with their own stuff. It just means you're in for the longer haul if you're going to use this as kind of your primary streaming platform.
Right. So, but let's also think, Alan, I mean, they're one of the least expensive ones still. Because what were they, $5 a month, or for a lot of people who are Apple people, they're thrown into what you're already bought a phone, you get it for a year, that sort of thing. And I feel like that they're still riding that wave of saying, hey, listen, we don't have to be your only service, right? You've got Netflix or you've got whatever. We want to be the add-on you have, and then all of a sudden creep you over to us and realize we have great stuff. Then they're going to, I think at some point when they really want to have world domination in the streaming services, it's when you're right, they could buy up a catalog from someone else. If they go and buy a big catalog, and Alan, I don't know, what would be a great big catalog that they could go after?
If they had from a movie selection, I mean, if it was like the Criterion collection, like, those kind of classic, highly regarded, highest reviewed movies that Criterion kind of used to release on DVD format. If it was that kind of like a high prestige collection of movies, like just well-known movie collection, or a studio, just like A24 is a perfect example. A24 is a kind of a smaller independent studio, but they put out tons of great movies that are sometimes award caliber films. It's right up Apple's alley, where if they were to buy a studio and get all of their past movies plus all new releases, that's the kind of thing that could really push Apple TV Plus forward.
And I think they did that. That would be them pushing someone like Netflix out of the way. And,
I could see that.
But I think they have to kind of work up to that. So I think for me, it's I love that they're hitting their stride right now, that every, say, 2 weeks there's something new coming out, and therefore, and I just don't have the bandwidth for more than, let's say, 3 shows that I can watch, progressively right now. So I think they've got enough stuff to carry me on. So I think that's good. And I did have HBO Max as my number 2. So, I do agree with you. Their content's good. The stream of the quality of the content, I don't think is quite as good. I don't like their app quite as much. There's there's still a funky piece that happens every time I go into this app where I can't tell where the cursor is or what's highlighted, and I have to kind of go a couple of steps one way or the other.
That's true. Look at that. There's no real, a very, very slight indication of where you're rolling over.
A bit of annoying, especially on an Apple TV box and the remote there. But no, the quality is good, and certainly, you know, with when you've got a hit show, right? And I think that's one of the things we'll talk about, Alan, that both of us, I'm pretty sure, have a similar. Some of our bottom ones are the same. And I think it's because the hit shows are lacking, right? That there's not this like, oh my gosh, I have to have it simply for that show. And I think that's the big draw when you get a service because of a show, and then all of a sudden you stay in because you think, well, that show is going to come with another season soon, and it kind of drips in, and then they try to buy you into the other things. HBO, obviously, Game of Thrones is a huge one. It's got some some wonderfully classic shows, you know, that are some of the best of all time that are in their catalog. So going back and watching some of those, you know that you're going to get good content. But so I would say they're definitely up there as my number 2 right now.
All right. Well, and Apple TV Plus is my number 2. So we're right on the same page, just a little flip flop with the 2. If you told me I could only keep 2 of these streaming services, these would be the 2. Yep. Apple TV Plus is my select high caliber content that I kind of know it's going to be well curated. It's going to be good stuff if it comes out, really well produced things. HBO Max is this is the variety I need of things available to me that I also feel like are good caliber material from a lot of different sources. So that's my 2 criteria there for those 2.
And Alan, what is HBO Max running right now?
Gosh, so like HBO 15? Max is a little more 15? Expensive. It's like 15, which is always the way it used to cost when it was on cable TV as well. When people would get it as another channel, it's about $15 a month to get it. And it's a little high. I mean, I think I'd feel even better about it if it was more in the $9 range, 9 to 10.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It maybe is a little overpriced, but I think the original stuff they put out has been compelling enough to make it worthwhile for that. Yeah. So, now I was going to move on since we talked about our top 2. My number 3 is Disney Plus. Now, for a couple reasons. Disney Plus, I think I mentioned my, last time we talked as well. It was still one of my favorites. Here's the difference with Disney Plus. The reason why I think you need or don't need Disney Plus. Disney Plus doesn't try to be everything to everybody. It is everything to a certain type of viewer that has certain interest and likes. And right there in front of you, you see 5 buttons on the middle interface. Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic. That's what you get. That is Disney Plus. There's not really anything that doesn't fall outside of those 5 categories. If you are a Disney fan or a Pixar fan, animated, live action, anything Disney or Pixar, it's here. If you are a fan of the 2 biggest fandom universes out there in motion pictures or TV, Marvel and Star Wars, it's all here. National Geographic's a little bit that weird outlier. It's like it doesn't really fit with the other 4 as much, but it has got some really great content on the National Geographic Hub. But that's what you get. They're not piping in a whole bunch of other random TV shows and a lot of other different movies. It's pretty much everything is in these 5 camps that they own. Of course, they own all this content, so this is all truly their content they own and can distribute. I'm a Marvel universe guy. I love the stuff, so I do watch it for a lot of the shows there. I'm a Star Wars guy, so of course I love it for all that content as well. I do not watch it as much for the Disney and Pixar, but it's nice knowing that it's there if there's something I did want to go back and catch up on. So overall, I like it because it's niche and it is very good in that niche. But it's not my top 2 because, again, if it wasn't for those niches that it satisfies for me, I would have very little reason to go here. Yeah. As it is right now,
sounds like for you, it's a good inclusion into your library of services, but it would never be your only one, I'm guessing.
Well, and if you as a viewer look at what I'm describing, you see these 5 boxes and you're like, none of those really speak to me. Okay, Disney Plus is not your service. You do not need it. you're not missing anything. But, if you are like me and my boys are, and we are kind of into the whole Marvel thing, we get excited because every week there's a new Marvel TV episode coming out that we have to watch. Star Wars has been putting out their own shows and weekly episodes on those as well. So it does make it compelling to stay with it, because it's not just movie drops. They've got original shows they're putting out in these universes as well. I'll say overall picture quality, image quality, I think is good. It's definitely better than some of the other services that we'll talk about in a little bit. Interface is fairly simple and good. Actually, I'll take, the one thing I should mention that doesn't fall in these 5 camps. I mean, even though they're technically owned by Disney, but just does not fit in any of these 5 hubs, is The Simpsons. For whatever reason, Disney owns The Simpsons now, but for whatever reason, The Simpsons are on Disney Plus. Every episode you could imagine of that long running series. So if you are a fan of The Simpsons, this is where you could fit, and it doesn't really fit in any of these 5 categories underneath it, but I guess you can call that a 6th hub that they have. So,
yeah.
So overall, I like Disney Plus because it has me coming back every week for very specific reasons, but I'd never go to Disney Plus just to say, I want to watch something new. I want to check out what's out there. It's very much appointment viewing. I know there's a new episode out. I know there's a new movie being released. I'm going to see that, and then I'm pretty much done until the next one rolls around. So, okay.
Wow. Okay.
I'm assuming, Brian, that this is going to be I'm going to guess a little lower on your list, right?
Well, this is the point in time where we create some drama here, Alan. You know, I mean, we've got to have some.
Oh, you want to wait and
here,
see
right? We are brothers.
It is on your list.
No. I'm saying this is where I'm going to turn a lot of people off because this is the lowest on my list. Disney Plus is the bottom of my list. It's absolutely the last
of the
list.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why. And again, this is where people are going to probably. I'm going to turn off a lot of people. I'm going to turn off a lot of people.
I know what you're going to say, and boy, are you sure you want to go down this path? This is a dark road to go down, Brian.
Can we take a pause so I can think about things for a minute? Yeah. Okay. So I'm not a Marvel person. I'm not a Star Wars person. I do like Pixar. Pixar is great, but I don't just go and see what Pixar has. Pixar is fantastic if it's something that I happen to watch. Great. Disney, I'm not a Disney fan. Honestly, out of all of that, when I go to Disney Plus, and I do have it, but I don't pay for it. I've got a family that allowed me to jump in on it. Not you, by the way, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, I know.
But I knew
you were just going to rip on this the whole time you were using it. So.
If I go to Disney Plus, which is rare, it is to see a National Geographic one because I love the 4K kind of, photography things that they'll go and do is just absolutely amazing to be able to see that stuff on a big screen.
Sure.
But man, I have to say, unless someone tells me like, okay, so I watched The Mandalorian. That's where I went to Disney Plus originally, and I was like, I'm going to watch that. My wife wouldn't watch it. She has no interest in it. I liked it. I thought it was great, but I'm not one of these that had to watch it because of the Star Wars. I've seen the 3 Star Wars film, the original ones, and the others maybe I've seen. I don't even know if I've seen them all the way through, but it's not my thing, right? I love the original. I love them, right? Marvel, I could care less. Right. I've never gotten into it. I've never gotten into the superhero sorts of things. I could really care less. So it is absolutely on the bottom of my list. Now, you said about quality. Yeah, the quality of stream's great. If you're into, and I do think it's really those two, it's Marvel, Star Wars that get such a draw for people. That if you're into that, I mean, this is where you have to be, right? I mean, you have to be at this place because it's the only place you're going to get it, right? So
I think the board of directors of Disney, when they were plotting out and designing Disney Plus, they had your picture up on a board and said, okay, this is not the person we're building this service for.
Yep, they're like, we'll slide him over here because we really
Right.
don't care about him.
It's like we were like, okay, what does Brian like? Okay, well, we're going to make sure we don't do any of that.
Right.
We're doing everything else.
Yeah,
we want the anti-Brian Jackson customer.
They did a good job.
No, you're right, but I mean, I think but you putting it at the bottom of your list explains exactly my situation with it. It is a niche-based service for a specific type of audience, and it's not meant for everybody.
Yeah.
Like I look at like my parents, our parents. Would I recommend
ours.
I guess. Would I recommend they get Disney Plus? Well, I mean, no, not really, because I don't think any of the 4 categories, maybe National Geographic.
Yeah.
But if somebody asks me, should I get this service? My question is, well, do you like any of these 5 things enough to pay $7 or $8 a month for it? And that's it. But if you like any of these, this is a great service and it looks good. It's a good interface. It's easy to use. I like it quite a bit. Now, Brian, I have a mystery, just really quick before we go on to our other services. So I have a family plan with Disney Plus, so I can share with other family members. I think you can get up to 5 or 6 family members you can share it with.
Yeah,
so I do have
that invite yet, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, but I do have an extra family member that is watching, but I verified with them that this is not them. I come into Disney Plus, and you can see right here under the continue watching, and it shows the status bar, how far I am. I'm not watching any of these. And my other family member that I have inquired with has also said they do not watch any of these shows either. But somehow these episodes are coming up as continue watching. And now the weird thing is there are some shows I do watch. And when I come back here, it will show the newest episode of that already with a progress bar like halfway through. And I haven't started watching it yet. So it's really weird. It's almost like there's a phantom person watching my account. Now, if this is one of my children and you've been lying to me or you've been trying to be kind of coy about it, I want you to come clean and let me know. It's okay. It is okay if you are logging in under my account and watching some shows ahead of me. They have not copped up to that yet. So I'm just giving them a chance to claim that. But they have stated that they do not do that. And again, some of these shows, I don't know who is watching them or what. So anyway.
Well, let me just get this out of the way. It's not me.
Okay.
Because I would tell you. Well, I'll tell you, if it was me, I would be putting the most embarrassing options up there so that you would see that you've been carrying on. But no, those don't seem to be the most embarrassing.
Let's be serious. Disney Plus is not going to have terribly too much embarrassing on there. Okay, that's that.
Oh, I'm just saying, like High School Musical, right there would have been the last thing to be watched, and I would have had that on the front of your.
That would have been funny, actually.
Forever.
No, that would have been funny. Now, the one you got to watch out for, the one you can really have fun with, is I think probably Amazon Prime or maybe some others. You can really,
there's some.
If you wanted to mess with somebody's account and make them really embarrassed the next time they pulled it up in front of their family, that would be the one to do it on. Yep. So, all right.
So, Alan, but on that note, though, so one of the questions would be, do you have family members that will put on shows and fall asleep? Because I'm guessing it has an auto kind of, it's going to keep running to the next one randomly.
It's possible,
sort of thing.
But look at this. I mean, it's like these shows are not all the way completed. There's 12 minutes left here, 18 minutes left on this one, 3 minutes left, 20 minutes left. So if somebody were falling asleep, wouldn't it have completed every episode before it went to another show?
Unless they woke up at that point and kind of exited out. But I don't know. Someone's lying to you. I'm just going to go ahead and say
somebody's
I
lying
don't think,
But I think somebody's messing with my
You all
algorithm.
don't have individual logins?
We do. We have one, but again, I think one of my boys is using mine and didn't set them up their own profile. That's my guess.
Okay. Yeah.
I want somebody to prove me wrong on this. Again, please come clean because you are messing up my algorithm. You're messing up what Disney Plus thinks I want to watch all the time. So,
and if you don't come clean, please click on High School Musical every night from now on for Alan. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Please do that. That'd be great. Okay.
All right,
Brian. So that's my number 3. What is your number?
That's
3?
my number. Disney's my number 8, as I mentioned. My number 3 is actually a surprise to me, because if you would have asked me 2 months ago, I would not have said this. It would have been at the bottom of my list. But Hulu.
Okay.
Hulu is actually my number 3, and I will apologize to the Hulu people now, because I think last time we talked about this, I had no interest in Hulu. I had zero interest even going to Hulu, trying Hulu out, because initially I had tried Hulu and I despised their interface. Remember, Alan, interface is huge for me, and Hulu I thought had one of the worst interfaces
Oh,
when they
it was
first came
bad.
out.
Yes.
And I tried it, did a free trial, left it, and said I'm never going back to that because of the interface. Well, little did I know that they actually started putting out some really good stuff. And when someone allowed me to jump in on Hulu and try their account out, I've actually gotten pretty impressed with it. I'm pretty surprised. And if you hold it right there, Alan, that show, The Bear, is what brought me in. I watched The Bear, and that's what, because I'm big into cooking and kind of the chef world. And so when a family member let me use Hulu and I watched that, I got hooked, and then realized they actually have a lot of other good stuff on there. So I say, if I'm going to jump in and try to find something new that I wasn't aware of, this is my number 3 behind Apple and HBO Max. So
okay.
How about you?
It's my number 4. So we're really, other than Disney Plus, we're just about in lockstep with each other on these. Yeah, Hulu's come a long way. Hulu has really made some strides. The show that got me into Hulu, kind of watching it, was The Only Murders in the Building, Steve Martin and Martin Short. It's on the 2nd season. First season I loved so much that I was ready for signing on and making sure I saw the 2nd season as well. But I think Hulu's got kind of an interesting model in that they are not only putting out, the original series like The Bear you mentioned, and some others. They're also bringing in some content, classic movies and other classic TV shows. But also the fact that because Hulu is partly owned by NBC and Fox or FX, they're actually bringing in fairly new episodes of TV shows after their broadcast pretty quickly afterwards. Like, for example, Saturday Night Live is an ABC show, but if you wait, I think, a day or two after it is on live TV, they'll put the episodes up on Hulu. So you don't get live TV, but you get pretty darn close for a lot of stuff if you're not really needing to see something the minute it is premiered on network TV. Same thing with FX and some other networks, is that this is their home of online streaming content once they've premiered on network TV. So it's kind of nice that for a $7 or $8 a month subscription, I think, to Hulu, if you get it with ads, you can pay more if you don't want ads on your programs. I just have the basic $7 or $8 level. It's a pretty good assortment of stuff. And again, there's at least 2 shows I watch on any given time on Hulu. And that to me makes it worth $8 a month. I'm fine with paying that amount for that. So yeah.
No,
good.
I think
As you can see,
the quality of what they put out, the originals, I think are really pretty solid. Yeah.
Now, another reason I'm with Hulu, and I mean, it's a couple shows, but also because I do have the bundle that I do between Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus. So the idea is that you pay, I think, $16 a month and you get all 3 together, because I do watch enough ESPN content that I want to check out and see there are multiple channels you have access to through Hulu if you have that bundle. As you can see, I've got ESPN Plus content piping into my Hulu subscription because I do have that bundle available. Yeah. So it's kind of nice in that, I feel like I did the math and it worked out about the same as if I bought Hulu and Disney Plus together, to just go ahead and do the bundle and also get the ESPN extra content on there as well. So, Hulu's coming around, and they keep rolling out some new shows. I just today heard somebody raving about this new show, The Patient, that just started up. So
I haven't heard that.
Again, new things starting up with a combination of some almost live content from network TV. Kind of makes for a nice combination. So yeah, Hulu's the one I'm with you. I'm the most surprised that I'm still watching and kind of enjoying right now. So
yeah. Cool. Well, Handmaid's Tale, of course, was the one that got a lot of people into it. It was its star show for a long time, and so I think the fact that they changed their interface, I'm very happy about, and the fact that I was away from them for so long means that I have a lot of things to dabble in. So it makes sense. So that's my number 3. That's your number 4. And I'm going to take a wild guess that my number 4 might be your next one as well. I don't know.
It is.
Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
let
Netflix.
me choose with my family members here. I still haven't figured out who Material Girl is, but I think that might be. I don't know who that is, to be quite honest. Somebody's got an account on my Netflix.
Well, you only have one more family member. Is that not?
Yeah.
Is that not who they are?
It would have been Alex, but I don't know. I asked him the other day, and he claims he does not know who that is either.
I have a lot of mysteries going on with Disney Plus either. Yeah, I got you.
Mm-hmm. I have a lot of mysteries going on with my family streaming service account. So anyway, all right. So Netflix. All right.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Netflix, Alan. Where are you mentally with Netflix right now?
All right. So here's the thing with Netflix. Netflix is kind of the granddaddy of all this. It's the one that really, I think, kind of get everybody started off on the whole seeing a streaming service become your primary source of entertainment. I can remember when Netflix really started to kind of pick up steam and people really started watching it. There's a lot of people who would just go to Netflix and canceled cable TV or other things because there's just so much to watch here.
Yep.
And they're putting out some new shows and it's got plenty to watch. Well, they're still doing that. I mean, there's still a lot of content on Netflix. There's a lot of original shows they put out. I will say, I think the problem with Netflix is kind of that it's trying to be everything to everybody. And in doing so, it's almost a master of none. It is so much content, so much both library content and original content going up rapid pace. It's doing the release schedule of everything at one time. So you kind of get a little bubble of buzz about a show when it comes out, and then you don't really hear about it again much after that. And so it's a tough one for me because it's the one that I am less likely to go into and just look for something because half the time I can't find it. It's just so much stuff. It's like I scroll, I feel like on this homepage forever, even just trying to figure out stuff that I've just recently watched. I go down, I'm scrolling down, I'm halfway down the page and there's new releases, I want to see.
Yep.
There's all these different categories. I'm just like going on forever. Here's my watch it again stuff I've watched before. I can watch again. It almost just gives me a headache when I get in here because it's too much. I almost get paralysis where I'm just like, okay, I don't want to get into this. Netflix for me right now has to be where there's a show I specifically want to seek out and watch. And I watch it. And it is one I could choose to binge if I want to, or stagger myself out on a regular basis. I have not been a big fan of a lot of their original movies lately. I have tried to watch and review some of them and just hasn't been really anything impressive. The shows I did watch that I felt like they really kind of made their mark with. I mean, Stranger Things, I'm generally a fan of, and Ozark. I was a big fan of that show.
Yep.
And right now I am a fan of the show The Sandman. That is pretty much it on Netflix for me right now. Anything else is just, if there's a old show that, is worth catching up with, or somebody points me in a direction of something to watch. But I just feel like there's too much going on. And there's not enough focus where Disney Plus and even HBO Max to a degree have a little more focus. There's a little more driving content to you that is going to be good and a good fit for your, a good fit for your taste, where I just feel like Netflix is we're just going to vomit out everything we've got onto a screen and just hope you find something you want to watch.
Yep. No, I'm
thoughts?
I'm with you. Well, I'm with you. I don't know if I like the comment you made of master of none, right? Or something, to be everything to everyone, but not really master anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that they have done some things incredibly well, but I think you're exactly right. There's too much stuff there and people get lost in that. So Ozark, for example, I think is one of the best shows that has been around in the last, 10 years, right? I think it is a fantastic show. But the problem is, as you notice, is there's so many other things that people will get lost in these other series, or I can't tell you how many times I've started something in Netflix and then not gone back to it simply because I started something else or couldn't find where I was right initially. So I think there's some real challenges there, right?
Brian, can you still hear me?
I can hear you. You're frozen for me.
Yeah,
But
I was gonna say
okay.
it is frozen up for me, so I'm kind of voice only right now for a little while. It looks like, and
Yeah. If there's any
yeah,
way we could get rid of your voice as well, that would actually be fine. We can make that happen.
So the
Yeah, I don't
problem
know.
is we may have to go old school on this, Brian, and just like the old
Ooh.
audio podcast only days, and just hear my voice on this.
Can you
Unfortunately, my
disable your
Chrome.
camera and turn it back on? Disable and
No,
at the
no,
bottom.
actually, I can't do
You can't.
anything on my Chrome browser at the moment where I'm recording this.
Man.
Everything decided to freak out on me at one time, and luckily, it's still recording my voice, and you can still hear me. But I cannot turn off my screen sharing, and I cannot do anything else at the moment,
Wow.
which is fitting and ironic for a tech-based podcast.
I love it. I love it.
So let me, since you can still hear me, I'm just going to keep talking, even with my frozen face. I hope my frozen face is at least on a decent looking frozen image of me and not something terribly embarrassing.
Seriously, what do we have to compare it to? But yeah, you're kind of in middle chew. It's almost like you're trying to nibble off the end of a carrot or something. I mean, it's a little bit, it's fine. It's fine. We're all okay with it. But let me just carry on for a minute, and then you feel free. Let's see if it unfreezes.
Yeah, hopefully it will. But I will just let me. I was going to say one thing about Netflix to kind of chime in on that. I hate saying that there's not enough there in Netflix as far as for why I bumped it down to like number 5 on my list. There's still good stuff, and I mean, I know Ozark's finished, but if Ozark was doing another season, I mean, I would keep my Netflix subscription no matter what for that. There are several shows that I think are engaging enough, but I just don't find myself going to Netflix by default. And I guess that's my biggest takeaway is that it has to be for me. Somebody tells me there's a show I should check out. Somebody tells me there's a documentary I need to watch. It's only on Netflix. Fine. I will go there and watch it, but I just cannot go into this app and just start to browse because it's just, again, it's mind numbing. Yeah.
It's maddening. The number of times my wife and I have sat down, said, well, let's watch something. We get to Netflix. 20 minutes later, we're like, I don't care. Just pick something, right? Like literally you were trying so hard to find, but you're always seeing something else. So Alan, tell me this, if Netflix came out with a toggle switch at the very top that said, we're going to allow you to do Netflix Lite, which is we're only going to show you, things that are related to your viewing and only new things from Netflix. Like there's literally going to be maybe 20 shows that show up, period. And, the things you've been watching or the new things that we have out, I think I would be all over and I'd probably still pay for what it is because I think they do put out good stuff. I think there's enough stuff to keep me going. Yeah. Obviously there's enough stuff to keep me going, but I really think that the issue is, I mean, they're playing a tricky game here because Netflix also knows that they're one of 2 services.
Hey, am I back?
Hey, you're back. Oh crap.
Well, I'm sorry.
Well,
sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah,
it was weird.
But Netflix is playing a game, Alan, that I think that they believe that they're one of 2 services that for the people that only have one service, people are choosing Netflix, or I would dare say people are choosing Amazon Prime because they get it for free with their Prime membership.
Sure.
And they include so much stuff, right? Both of those, if you have one, you will always find something you can watch, right? So I think they're saying, well, we've got those people that are going to only pay $10, $12 a month, and they have to go with us because they can't just go with Apple. They can't just go with Hulu. They've got to come with us because we've got the biggest library. But I think on the flip side, they also have the other people, which is probably 80% of us, who have multiple things. And when we have multiple things, I don't know about you, Alan, but I'm always looking to say, well, I've got to give Apple TV love and find a show there. I've got to have something. If I've got Paramount, I'm going to have one show I'm going to watch from them. So all of a sudden, now there's maybe one show on Netflix, and one out of all of those starts to become a bad model, right? That all the Netflix people, I don't think, can share. I mean, other than Stranger Things and other than Ozarks, I just don't think you're getting a ton of the water cooler talk around the Netflix shows right now.
You're not. And again, I tell you, it really has to do with that release schedule. I still think if Stranger Things had been rolled out over 2.5 months, 10 episodes or whatever it was, you would have so much more buzz built up. But instead, everybody binges it in a weekend. You go to ask somebody, hey, have you seen Stranger Things? Oh yeah, I finished it last weekend. Okay, well, we can't talk about it until I'm finished with it. And so it just defeats that whole discussion point. Brian, I am concerned.
I'm concerned as well. If I'm looking at your screen, is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, because I have never seen Boss Baby back in business, but yet it is showing that I am 18 out of 24 minutes into this episode. Again, there are phantoms at play on my accounts at the moment. I do not understand. These two, Stranger Things, Sandman, I have been watching. Boss Baby, no, have not.
Well, I am wondering about the wording at the top. I'm not sure where I've been reading up on the I came by taggers. Tell me that's at the very top. Oh, okay. So that's
it's a subtitle.
Subtitle. Okay.
Well, it's subtitles because I turned off the sound because the sound.
I got you.
That is Netflix. Okay. Unfortunately, when you go to Netflix, they're the ones that decides they are going to still play sound of the trailers on the top of the screen, where everybody else has figured out we're going to quiet those until you actually physically scroll up and say you want to hear the sound from those trailers. So
So I think they're playing a weird game, and I don't know, but I haven't looked at the exact numbers now, but I think Netflix just had their first quarter where they lost people, right?
They did.
So I think that this could be a challenge. I believe that they're either going to have to do the slow release on a few big time things, which of course is going to old model because they have so many things that how do they decide which one is going to be the big thing, right? When you have all these new things coming out. I mean, right there, like Netflix, all of those things, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out that just through Netflix. And quite honestly, I'm not sure if anybody can get through all of those things. I mean, you'd have to designate a ton of your life to do that. So therefore, I think people limit to getting frustrated with Netflix, or at least I do.
Agreed.
So I have been debating over the last couple of months of deleting it, getting rid of it, and just waiting until something great comes out that I need to add it back just for that show. But it's tough because it really does have a lot of good stuff. It's got too much stuff. So
and it's a little bit, and there's good quality there, but I do feel like it's tilting more towards the quantity versus over quality than the other way around. Where Apple TV is the opposite. I'm going to go all quality, or at least what they perceive to be high quality productions versus quantity. And here, I mean, there's good stuff on Netflix. Don't get me wrong. There are shows I enjoy, but the ratio of what I'm going to watch versus what's available is much, much tilted in the other direction. So
can I also say, Alan, one of the things, I don't think I run into this in any other service, maybe Amazon, where I will scroll to try to find something that looks interesting. I'll find something interesting. I'll get on it and then realize it's in another language and I am not willing to watch it on subtitled. And then I'm frustrated and I go back, where they just don't make it as obvious. They've got so much content. There's a lot of content that is not in English that you have to watch subtitles. And if you're not into that, it just maddens you even further with the scrolling capabilities, where you say, oh, I'm going to watch Dark. I've heard that's amazing. Oh, crap, I'm in it now, realize it's this. And so I just think their filters, they need more filters. I mean, if anything, this is the company that should put a ton of filter options available for people. I think they would actually increase their viewership if they put a series of filters at the top where you say, okay, you know what? When I scroll, I only want to see this kind of thing. I only want to see things that have happened in the last 6 months. I only want to see, things that are rated this. If you were able to truly narrow all that content down so you didn't have to scroll, maybe you make your own rows to say, Alan's row, so-and-so's row, late night row, comedy row, and you have only the ones you care about. And you knew that it would filter out tons of things, but you don't have to slide through them, which I think is the maddening part. I'll also say really quickly, I think one of the other things Netflix does badly is that if you view Netflix on different platforms, like the Roku versus the Apple TV, the rows are not the same. So therefore, if you saw something when you were flipping on one TV, you go to the other TV and try to find that same one.
It's
good
not
luck.
in the same place.
Good luck. Yeah, they don't even have the same category. So
No,
anyway,
you're right.
I know that's a
I've
lot on
noticed
Netflix,
that as well.
But, So anyway, it's a bummer.
I think there's ways they could fix it, like you said, with some of the interface changes and allowing you to customize kind of your view and have it be a little better about picking things for you based on your viewing habits. Because right now, I just feel like it just throws anything at you. Oh, hey, Alan liked an action movie last month, so I'm going to throw a whole bunch of action movies out on him and just see if he likes any of these. And I'd rather it be you know what, Alan watched this movie and he watched this movie and he watched this movie. That tells me this specific type of movie is what I should feature for him on a recommendations tab if he wants to see that on his homepage. And I think that's that'd go a lot stronger. So Netflix, I think overall, I mean, I still have it. There's enough stuff to watch, but if you gave me the choice, I'm going to pick one of my other top 4 over this one. And this will be the one I would cut if push came to shove. So,
All right. So the other ones, I think we can maybe slide through pretty quickly here because they are toward the bottom of our list. So
they are pretty quick. Let's hit my number 6 is Amazon Prime.
It's also 6 for me.
Yeah, I do. I mean, there is some good content here. There is some good things they're putting out. They do have a lot of new original shows. They've kind of rolled out several, even just in the last few months, that have gotten some good reactions. I don't know why I don't go to Amazon Prime more often. Although the content's good, it just never kind of hits me as top tier content that I really want to seek out. It seems like it's a little more and I'm going to use this. I don't mean to be disparaging with this, but this is kind of the way it looks at it. It's the difference between going to a really good, like old style video store back in the day when you used to rent movies, and you go to a real boutique store that really specializes in movies, or you go to the Walmart bin where it's just walls and walls of movies, cheaper, and you kind of get what you're paying for. That's a little bit of the way I feel with Amazon Prime, is I just feel like a lot of the stuff on here seems to be a little more bargain bin content. Now, it's not to say everything. Again, there's some good stuff here. I mean, obviously they've got big movies that are available on Prime, some new movies that get rolled over into that. And then there are a few original shows I have watched and enjoyed, but I just don't quite feel like they're there with the level of content and quality that the other services are yet.
No, I'll agree with you there. I'll agree with you there. I mean, I think there are some good shows. Nothing that I think, oh my gosh, I can't live without that show. And I don't know if it's just me, but I don't believe the quality of the stream itself is as good, right? I don't get the depth of quality of the stream. So
we didn't mention that with Netflix, but I think that's another downfall of Netflix. Netflix, I've not found to be good quality streaming, like as far as how the image looks. Definitely on Amazon Prime. That's one I don't go to if I want to see the most stellar image quality, for sure.
And you can't really blame them, right? I mean, they would keep most of their subscribers even if they didn't put anything new out at all because of Prime, right? Amazon Prime, and you get this. People I don't know about you, but I don't find myself anywhere close to getting rid of my shipping Prime membership. So therefore it's here. So there's good. If I'm going to go look for an old movie, I tend to go Amazon because I think their catalog's pretty good of the things I like of older movies. So I think that's good. But no, it's quality of it is not great, but it's also could be listed as my number 2 if we're talking about likelihood of getting rid of it. Because I'm not likely to get rid of it anytime soon.
No, that's true. There's very little chance of getting rid of it. I will say, just to kind of make sure we're being fair to Amazon Prime. I mean, they're a big show they're banking on right now. You're going to be hearing a lot of it. Is this Lord of the Rings franchise they're building out? And again, I know it's not your cup of tea, Brian, but this is one kind of like the Game of Thrones is for HBO. This is their big franchise that they're putting tons of money into. And it is starting this week as we're recording this. So whether or not this is the kind of show that starts to get people really flocking to the service and using it as a premier service or not, I don't know. But I can't remember them having quite this big budget production on Amazon Prime originals as this one. So we'll see what it turns out to be like, and if it helps them at all with things. As we kind of moved on the list, Brian, I think the last two we've got are my bottom two. They're your next to two. Disney Plus, we know, is your bottom one, but Paramount Plus. And this is one, as I mentioned earlier on the show, I mean, this is one that owns CBS as a network. So you will find a lot of CBS content that gets piped into Paramount Plus. For example, I'm looking right here on the front page, NCIS, Big Brother, Blue Bloods, all CBS shows that are getting piped into Paramount Plus. But Paramount Plus also has original shows and original movies. That is what's starting to kind of push it forward. They're really doing a lot of things with the Star Wars or Star Trek franchise, adding shows in that universe. They've had the Yellowstone, 1883.
Yellowstone and 1883.
Some of that original content.
Yeah. And I will go ahead and pipe in and say those two shows are why it is up on my number 5 instead of lower. It's just those two shows were really, really well done, in my opinion. 1883, I think, was fantastic the way it was done. So again, going back to my two qualities, right? It's the interface and it's the show. And if you have something that's really, really good quality show like this, it's worth it. Now, Paramount's something that I don't pay for. It comes as part of my cell phone service, which I'm happy about because there are a couple shows there that are pretty good. And some of the things there's some good content if you dig into some of it. And so I think that there's some possibilities there, but it is limited. It's definitely one that I would get rid of if I was paying for it right now and I needed to trim. And then you mentioned, Alan, Stars. Stars is something I have personally zero connection to at all. I don't have any real interest myself in it, but my wife loves Outlander, and Outlander was kind of its big show. And I know it is for a number of people. So that one, I think, kind of brought several people into the Stars world. Stars is also one that they'll provide you very cheap for a few months and say, $3 and you can get it, $3 for 3 months or something like that, or $3 a month for 3 months. So it's very inexpensive in that they do a lot of good deals. But I don't have any need for it myself. So.
Yeah. Is there an original? Well, you mentioned some of the originals, Outlander and some other ones. As I look through the originals, again, these are not ones that are huge water cooler type shows right now, which is part of the problem for Stars, is that they just don't have that one show yet that everybody is going to see and talking about right now. Yeah. Stars is my last one. I've never watched anything on Stars. I've never had it. And I've honestly not had any reason to get it. So, as I look at these other 8, currently I do have paid memberships to 5 of them, and I get Amazon Prime free with my Amazon Prime account. So that's 6 I have access to. 2 of them are bundled together so that I don't really feel like I'm paying for 6 individual unique ones, but it's a lot. And I mean, I add the dollars together, I'm still right about the level I was when I was paying for cable. So it is that kind of a double-edged sword on the whole. Yes, we wanted things to be piecemeal and choosing the different platforms we wanted to go to, but we just didn't anticipate, I don't think, that there would be 8 possible ones that people could want
content.
To watch content on. So it's a little challenging there to think about how to budget your time. Here's the great thing about all these services. I keep reminding people, though, all of these services we've talked about, month to month payments, meaning if there is a show you want to watch and all of the episodes are already on that network, you can get 1 month of that network, watch the show you want to watch, and then cancel it. And there's no hassle, there's no contracts, which is great. I
completely agree. And I think that's what the model I want to move towards, is to start going month to month and saying, oh, you know what, this month I'm going to choose these 3. Next month I'll do these 3, right? But here's my question, Alec. Have you done this before? Have you done the drop and re-add? What happens to your watch list? What happens to your watch list and your list? Do you have to rebuild a list?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah,
So you're talking
that's my
about,
big concern, right? It's
okay,
kind
you're
of, I
talking
don't want
about
to
the
have to go back
example.
in and develop a watch list or something.
So you're talking about the idea that, and I've heard people do this, they call it like just all of a sudden they say, okay, one day I'm just going to zero out and cancel all of my streaming services.
Except one. And for the next month, I'm going to watch that one.
Well, no, actually some people do this. They say, look, I'm going to cancel all of them. And then I'm only going to add a service back if there is something specific I need to watch. Because in other words, I just felt like I've built up all these subscriptions and I'm not really using them all as effectively. But you're right. The question is, if I canceled my Netflix subscription and I waited 6 months and then I started it back with the same email address and account name, will it remember my list and my continue watching or any of that? Or will I be starting
algorithms? Fresh? Yeah. Yep. So that's
the only one that could be a problem with, well, I would say it would be a problem with Netflix because I've had that the longest, but Netflix, I don't think does a good job of doing anything with my algorithm that I feel like I'd be losing anything there.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be the end of the world in many of those cases, but I do like the idea of just like shutting them down.
When you start getting a family built in, right? Your wife and I are watching things and we each have our own. And then we say, now we have to rebuild it again to kind of get it to give good recommendations. I think, that's a challenge. But I'm very, very close because I just feel so overwhelmed. There is so much out there that I don't necessarily need it all. And I certainly don't have time for it all. The other two things I want to mention, because I know we're running late here. Surprise. But two, I think, key variables. One is sports, right? That is going to be a big challenge. We have to do this again probably in a couple months because you've got the big boys starting to make plays on college sports, and Apple just got exclusive rights to soccer, MLS. And I will tell everybody, given the amount of money Apple has, and even though, and actually in a positive way, MLS is not a big enough sport here in America that people are going to be pissed off and say, you must run it a certain way. I guarantee you in the next 2 years, if they keep MLS going, they're going to find creative ways of bringing technology into the sport world that we have not seen before. You can't do it with NFL. You can't go with NFL and say, you know what, we're going to develop all these new angles and do all this sort of stuff. You can do it with something like soccer. You could actually come and say, we are the only person that's going to do this. So therefore, choose your announcer or choose your angle and all these sorts of things that I think Apple has the money and the option to do because of a sport like that. So I think that you're going to find that that's going to change the dynamics a lot when you start getting a place like Hulu that gets, college sports or a particular college football conference and all that sort of thing. So just be aware that that's going to change the equation pretty quickly over the next couple of years.
And I think it's interesting too. I mean, we've kind of blurred the line now. We started off this episode saying that we weren't really going to talk about live TV services. We were going to talk about more movies and TV shows on demand streaming services. But obviously you take something like sports, and here, this is Apple TV's page, and Major League Baseball right there. Friday Night Baseball is live on Apple TV Plus, which is weird when it was announced because it's, again, everything we've been used to so far is on demand. I want to watch this episode. I want to watch this movie. Sports is obviously I want to tune in and watch a live broadcast. So when Apple TV rolled this out and is rolling out soccer, they've now blurred the line between a streaming platform and a YouTube TV type platform that's tied into your live streaming of live network TV. I guess the idea here is that, yes, movies and TV shows don't have to be live. Okay. Yes, it was nice when people could all kind of watch something at the same time, but they can get pretty close to that by releasing an episode on a certain day of the week. And everybody kind of watch it in that first 24, 48 hours and can talk about it. Sports, it has to be to the minute. It has to be live. That's the one thing that just does not play on a on-demand basis anymore. And so weaving sports in makes a lot of good sense. And you're going to bring in a lot of people that were not Apple TV Plus subscribers just because they want the Major League Baseball, they want the Major League Soccer, whatever it may be. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I think they're all realizing live sports is the ticket to get people to wean off of any other type of live streaming service they may be using
service,
or cable service, and go all in on their one platform. So,
well, and it's also just it's what's going to bring them to their app, right?
yeah.
I mean, the idea that I have no need to go to Netflix unless I hear about something that's coming up. So if you know you're going to be having people enter your app because they know the game's coming on, and then they just happen to see your other ads that are coming across or your other streaming elements, I think it's gonna change the dynamics quite significantly. And just, everybody needs to be aware there's only a couple of companies that actually have the money to go after the big sports. Apple is one of them. Apple has enough money that it can vie for some of these. But then you also have, Disney has the money. Hulu probably has the money, given that their partnership with, was it CBS or something? Who with NBC?
No, it's
they've got a lot of
and
it.
ABC.
Yeah, and also ESPN and everything that are kind of built into that whole world with Disney. They've got the capital to do it. But this is where Netflix is gonna. I think Netflix is going to be in trouble unless they find a different model to do. So that's one thing I think everybody needs to keep their eye on. The other thing I just want to quickly mention, Alan, is I would love to see. We talked about the one a week sort of thing. I am waiting for, at some point, one of these companies to say, we have a massive blockbuster. Like, let's say that Top Gun or the Maverick show, the movie did go to streaming and someone was able to buy it, to where someone says it's only going to stream this weekend, right? Mm-hmm. It's a one weekend thing. It's going to stream. I need everybody to come and watch it that one weekend so you can talk about it. And then it's not going to come again for another 6 months. But like Blockbuster, where you start making Blockbuster to be a one-time deal, because I think the idea of getting people on board to say, I'm going to watch something this weekend and that's it, I think is pretty key. Apple tried to do it, I think, with some of the, what was it? The Ice Age stuff that they were doing, the remaking of the, kind of dinosaur stuff. Mm-hmm. They were putting those out at certain times, but I really feel like that's something that I'm excited for someone to try again, to get us back in the mode of everybody's watching this tonight, and everybody's going to talk about it tomorrow. We're actually going to plan our day around watching this movie as opposed to, figure it out.
Right? See, I've always said I thought it'd be fun if a Netflix really wanted to kind of be different and say, look, we are your alternative. We know how much fun it is for everybody to watch stuff together at the same time.
Yep.
If there was a Netflix TV channel on the Netflix app that was just streaming some of their Netflix content, but kind of on a schedule in a way, and a nice variety mix, almost like a DJ, kind of like serving up stuff. But you can say, hey, look, everybody can hop in and watch this movie at the same time on this Netflix TV channel. You can still watch it on demand. You're not limited to that, but this is more of a, hey, look, everybody jump in. We're going to watch this movie at 8:00 so everybody can get online and chat and talk or whatever they want to do and watch it at the same time. And that could be really fun. That could be really interesting.
And that's starting to happen, right? The whole group watch thing is starting to become a thing through Apple, as well as soon. I think Netflix has a group watch option now, or maybe it's Disney or something. But there's a few services where you can say, invite someone to watch with you. You can even hear them talking. But I think
but there's something
some
about
options.
Brian, I still find myself going to my TV set sometimes and turning up YouTube TV and just flipping through the channels and say, hey, I'm just have something on in the background. I'm really not, I don't need anything to pay a lot of attention to. And there'll typically be some of these cable channels that are showing some comedy movie or something else that's just good to have on that you don't have. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of the show or middle of the movie, you can still tune in and watch it. I think if some of these streaming services try to replicate that same kind of feel of look, there's somebody programming a night of stuff for us, and it's at 8:00. This show is going to start streaming, and you can all watch it together at this time. And it's not just limited to like a small group of people that you want to invite and to watch with you. This is the entire internet has the chance of all watching this show, this movie together at the same time and commenting and talking about it on Twitter or Facebook or whatever it may be. and just having fun with that. I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a throwback feel, and it may be something like a Netflix needs to do to stand out from these other services that I feel like are lapping it right now. And
well, that's why I said it. They can record. I mean, they have enough shows, right? They can pick one and say this was a big one, and it's only going to happen at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific on Saturday. And if you don't see it now, you probably won't get to see it for another year because we're not going to put it out, or 6 months or whatever. But now's the time to see it. And everybody's like, cool, I'm preparing for it. Let's go and let's all watch. And then we can talk about it. Now, of course, the problem is people can go and record it and, illegally record it, blast it out other places, whatever. But I just think the group use is something that's going to be needed, because if not, people are just so spread out with these things that it's going to be hard to keep a large chunk of the audience. So
I agree. I agree.
All right.
One last little, just because I know we're always very sensitive, trying to make people understand about cost of things and being very cost conscious with any of their technology. Just a last little plug I'll put in. We've mentioned it kind of here and there as we talk about these services. Please, everybody, remember, these streaming services, almost all of them, allow you to have multiple people as profiles to use your service. They do not have to live in the same house. That's the biggest thing I found so many people getting confused by. They think, oh, well, that's just for the 5 family members in my house. No, I mean, you can actually have a family member that lives in another house using one of your profiles on your account. And that's what they're meant for. It's called family. It's not necessarily just household. It is family members. And many of the streaming services will allow you to do that. So just keep that in mind. And that, they encourage that. That's why they have that feature there. If you and your spouse live somewhere and you've got parents that live somewhere else, or maybe you got kids that live out of the house, you can share those, create those profiles, and they can log in and choose their profile and watch their stuff. And it doesn't have to be all in the same physical house. So just, or you could have just really good friends that you decide you're going to make a family with, for this purpose. And that's fine too. They're not discouraging that. They do want
there are some, so let's not go crazy here, Alan. There are some services that will say it needs to be a family member. It needs to even be in a household. There are some that will say that they don't care. I can't remember, but I know I looked at some of them because I was thinking of sharing. But I wouldn't say that they don't care. I would say, there's a lot of them that there is not a check that's going on. And many of them, you're right, saying, hey, as long as they're a family member, because they get it. They want eyes on what they have. They want eyes.
Now, they are trying to crack down on sharing passwords. And that is different, meaning that you're giving somebody else your login and password and saying, yeah, go ahead and log in as me. That is something they're trying to crack down on, because then that means you could propagate that login password anywhere. And that really waters down the service. The difference between family member profiles and sharing a login and password with somebody is you actually go in and create a profile for a family member. And in many cases, they get invited to then join that family, and they even have their own login into it, but they're under your family plan. That's okay. But the giving somebody else your login and password and logging in as them to use it is what the services obviously are frowning on and trying to limit. So, yeah.
And that it's not services like YouTube TV, because if you're going to do that, do not share it with people that are not in your local area, because it will catch you and say, this is a problem, or you must be traveling. So just realize things that are live, you probably want to make sure if you are having multiple accounts, they are accounts that are in the same time zone and the same area, the same viewing area, because they have.
Yeah, they need to be in the same basically the same TV market. If it's the Charlotte, North Carolina market, you need to be in that area, because sure enough, if I leave this area and I fire up YouTube TV, it says, hey, are you temporarily moving somewhere else, or are you living there now? Because we need to place you geographically wherever you are, and make sure you're limited to only content that is live available in that area. So, whole different situation, but yes, good point on that. So, okay, Brian, we have talked for an hour and a half about streaming TV services. In this time,
we could do this every month, and this is.
I think we could have watched 3 episodes of Only Murders in the Building, I believe, in the time we recorded this show.
Yeah.
Which is the shame, because that's how many episodes I have left in the season to watch, and I could have finished it by now. But
well, you probably could have watched more of your High School Musical that I know that you've been watching. So,
why do I have a bad feeling? In a couple of days, I log into Disney Plus, and that is going to be all of my recommendations, and it's going to show that I'm halfway through every episode of that show.
Okay, well, first of all, and the flaw in that is that I promise you I don't have your account, and two, I promise you your kids are not watching this show.
You'd be surprised. One of my sons did listen to one of our episodes recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He made a comment about it. He listened to it. So there's no telling. They could be listening to this. And again, I'm waiting to see what happens next.
If we said something like Alan will gift you a certain amount of money if you remember the code that we're getting ready to say, that they'll only know if they actually listen to this, right?
No, let's sweeten the pot a little bit.
What is it?
If you subscribe to Brothers in Tech, I'm saying this to my three sons, and you can prove this to me. Your percentage of inheritance in the will might go up a couple percentage, maybe a few percentage points. Now, keep in mind, I have
maybe at 1% right now.
I was going to say, right now, I have nothing to leave to any of you. So that means nothing. If anything, it may actually mean that you are responsible for more of my
more debt,
more of my liabilities I'm leaving to you. But I am going to say that I want to see if any of my kids made it to the end of this episode an hour and a half later, or B, subscribe to the show in general. And call me out on that promise and try to hold me to it.
Yep, and I'm going to put in that they must subscribe and they must text me and Alan the words High School Musical.
Okay,
right. That
High School Musical.
High School Musical
is the text word you have to send to both of us.
Both of us, so we can
to verify that yes, you have listened to this episode. And you are now entitled
and
to
show us maybe
reward.
a screenshot of your subscription. But yes, that's how we'll know. And we're not mentioning it from here on. So
listen,
you must have listened to this.
Brian, if they made it an hour and a half listening to us talk about streaming services, that's fine. I probably will.
Maybe we should say if anyone gets to this point this episode.
Yes.
Send us an email to info@themesh.tv.
That's what you do. Send an email, info@themesh.tv. Just put in the subject line, High School Musical.
High School Musical, yes.
That's it. And we know, oh, wow, they listened to the whole show and they dropped us a note. Thank you.
Yep. We will mention you on the show. We will, we will send people to your Twitter if you want, or whatever it is you want us to promote. Just send a High School Musical to info@themesh.tv. You can also go to our website. This does not get you your free plug, but you can go to our website at www.brothers-n-tech.com. www.brothers-n-tech.com. So that's where you can see previous episodes, and there is what we're putting in: High School Musical. Yeah,
that is the words to use in the email. Sending to info@themesh.tv.
All right,
good deal.
Let's see. Let's throw it out. All right,
well, Brian, I'm ready to sign off. I'm ready to go.
I was ready to sign
catch
off
up on some things
45 minutes ago, but whatever.
Yeah, that's true too.
All right, man,
well, listen.
That's fun.
Thanks everybody for watching or listening to Brothers in Tech, talking about streaming services. I hope it was helpful. Well, it is something we're probably every, 6 to 12 months.
I think 6 months is good. Yep.
We'll check in on the streaming service to see how they're doing, because they're an important part of our entertainment basis in our personal lives, and I'd like to see how they're faring. So, but thanks for listening to this episode, and we'll look forward to talking to everybody next time. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.